In this video, I'm going to share with you the 3 steps you need to become a successful life or business coach. And I'm going to keep it simple. Most people are focused on all of this overwhelming information. That's one of the main reasons that most people fail. Well, I'm going to help you avoid that in this video. In this edition of the Truth About Coaching show, take whatever. I just flipped off the camera. Man, that lingerie comment really got me going here. When in doubt, you just got to start taking off articles of clothing. That's what you get when you film on a Friday afternoon after a couple weeks of quarantine. These videos are probably going to get better and better and better. All right, I will not start again after this one. This is it. Hey everyone, in this edition of the Truth About Coaching show, we're going to talk about how to become a life coach in 3 steps. So I'm assuming that you are early on in your process of becoming a life coach, and I want to simplify it for you with these 3 macro level steps. The first step is to check in with yourself. You've got to have a level of internal clarity and certainty and commitment that this is a decision that you're really going to go all in for, or not. I mean, you don't necessarily have to go all in terms of full time, but do you really want to do this or not? Or are you just going to toe dip and hopefully it works out because you hear from a lot of other people that you can make a lot of money in coaching, so you just want to see if you can get some of that success with just a very little amount of effort. And of course, I don't suggest doing that. There's got to be a level of commitment, and the commitment can't be conditional upon your early success. What a lot of people are saying is, I'm all in as long as I succeed really quick in the very beginning. Now, of course, this might not be an intellectual, conscious conversation, but that's the way most people operate. So if you're in, you're in. And the level of your commitment is going to determine the results that you get. I think everybody understands this, but most people that start businesses don't behave like they understand this. And your level of commitment is going to get you exponential returns. Meaning, if you really fully commit to this thing because it's something you really want to do in your life, then the returns that you're going to get are going to be exponential in nature as you keep moving forward without the conditions of success being your demand, right? So you're going to do the work, you're going to follow the steps, you're going to go, and not need to make money right away. Then once the money starts coming and once the success starts coming, then the returns start to become exponential. But most people never hit that because their commitment doesn't deserve that. Make a decision for yourself, and I would suggest have a conversation with yourself, maybe do some journal writing, but make a promise to yourself. And maybe that promise is for a certain amount of time, that you're going to give this everything that you have in the time that you designate for 6 months, for a year, for 2 years, whatever that is for you. But make yourself a long commitment and then commit to the time period. Don't commit to the success along the way, commit to the time period. That gives your brain a much bigger level of commitment, and it helps you not be so dependent on the success in each particular step. And do you even really want a coaching business? I mean, a lot of people just want clients. And when I make that distinction, a coaching business is one that has maybe some employees, maybe you rent an office, maybe you've got a bunch of content, a bunch of products out there, you're selling things online, you're doing live events and speaking. But even though that's one of the sexy models of doing business and being a coach, that's not the only way to do it. In fact, that's a pretty difficult way to do it, especially when you're starting out. So I want you to ask yourself, do you really want the big business? Do you want the structure? Do you want the responsibilities? Do you want the much higher level of expenses? Or do you just want to help people? And do you want to get clients and generate some revenue and keeping it all lean? If you decide that you want to do this, you absolutely can. Every single person has value that other people would pay for if you know where to look. Your value is in the lessons that you've learned in your life. Your value is not in your accomplishments. It's not in how you impress people. Your value is in the lessons that you've learned that other people are looking for, and they will pay for that. So if you decide that you want to do this, you have value. Now, a lot of people can't find their value. A lot of times our biggest genius that most valuable genius that we have to offer to the world is almost invisible to ourselves, which is just the nature of us dismissing the things that are easy for us or not really focusing on the most valuable lessons that we've learned in our life. And if you want some help identifying what your signature value is that I believe you could take to the market, then there's a link in the description where you can sign up for a signature value session. Get on the phone with either myself or one of our coaches and help you identify, this is my value that I want to take into the market. So that's essentially step number one. It's an internal conversation about what you really want. And when it comes to your commitment and what you're putting into your endeavor, what matters is time on the clock, not time on the calendar. So if you decide today that you want to be a coach and 3 months later you still want to be a coach, but between now and then you've invested maybe 4 hours in actual study or actual work, you don't have 3 hours of 3 months rather of investment. You have 4 hours of investment. So the time on the calendar doesn't matter at all. The only thing that matters in this conversation is how much investment of time and energy are you putting into building your craft and building your commitment. The second step is to have a macro level clarity on who it is that you want to help and what work you want to do. Now, you don't need, again, all the details. You don't have to have that path completely paved. What you need is a high-level idea of who it is you want to help and what you want to do with them, and then get in motion. What too many people do is try to get completely prepared for the entire journey. It's like getting everything lined up in a cross-country road trip, right? And you know all the stoplights, and you know exactly where you're going to stop to eat, and you know where you're going to get your hotel rooms and all that stuff before turning the car on. Now, of course, there's nothing wrong with planning, but you've got to get in motion. Otherwise, you're never going to see the country. You're never going to see all the sites that are available to see, and you'll never experience any success that's available to you unless you get in motion. Motion is what creates the clarity. It's not what comes from the clarity. What most people are doing is they're not getting in motion until they're totally clear about what they're going to do and that it's guaranteed that it's going to work. But all of that comes through the motion. And that switch of a mindset is so critical, especially when you're doing something like building a business, right? And the majority of the lessons you'll learn in the business building can only come from motion. And I can't stress this enough. If you're in step 1, you only need enough clarity to get to step 2. If you are searching for step 3, step 4, step 5, step 10 clarity, and the details of how to get to all those steps, not only is it not helpful to you, it's not relevant for where you are, but it's actually more dangerous because you're clouding your mind with all this information that makes it harder to take that next step. So what matters in this is your implementation of what you're learning and your movement toward your goals, not your collecting of information. Don't just stay stuck in learning mode. Learn, implement, adjust. Learn, implement, adjust. Learn, implement, adjust. If you do that, there's nobody that I've ever met that doesn't have a valuable enough lesson and the skills as a human to be a successful coach, but most people just won't do the work because of their willingness or the internal work that they haven't done on themselves or who knows why. But everybody can do this. It's just that most people are not willing to. So the third step, assuming that these first two steps are yeses, right? Like, yes, you are committed to doing this, you have enough clarity, then the third step is to get certified in whatever that macro clarity area is for you. There's so many certifications out there, and most of them are not anything that will relate to what it is that you want to do. So obviously be diligent in your research, not only in the program itself, the details of the program, but does this certification match what you want to do? What I don't suggest you do is get so caught up in the source of the certification. Not that it's unimportant, of course. You want to go with a credible company, you want to go with a credible teacher, you want to go with somebody that's going to give you the skills that are useful. So I'm not saying, be careless, but the source, like the institution that gives you your certification, is not anywhere near as important as what you do with the material. I mean, it's like college, right? If you're a parent, it's nice to say, I want to send my kids to an Ivy League school, or I want to send my kids to, the university that I went to. That source might mean something to you. But in the real world, we have people that are successful from all walks of life with degrees from all the different institutions all the way around the world, really. And what matters is what they do with it, not the title of the institution that's on the certifications. Now, I'm a firm believer that you have to get certified. And the reason is coaching is a specialized skill. We hear a lot of people go, everybody calls me up and asks me for help with their problems, and so I can be a coach. And that's great. It's cool to have what it takes for people to come to you and for them to have the trust and so forth. But coaching is a specialized skill. It requires study. There are exercises and tools and concepts and awarenesses and rapport and all these considerations that are not just inherently natural to us. So don't think that you can just skirt through the certification process or find something that's just like super convenient and the cheapest thing. And just because you get a lot of comments that a lot of people want to share their life's issues with you, that you're just going to jump out there and be a coach. It just doesn't work that way. Now, unfortunately, the coaching industry doesn't have any kind of regulatory body that says you have to prove yourself proficient to these standards in order for you to say that you're a coach. And that's why a lot of people are doing just what I said not to do. Don't just throw yourself out there or try to skip over certification. You've got to be a really good coach, and people can tell if you're not. People can tell if you don't have the certainty in your body, because that's a magnet that's going to attract them, or it's going to repel them based on your level of certainty in yourself. And too many people are not studying the craft of coaching, especially if you want to do transformational coaching. So when you look into your certification, you got to make sure that it matches with your goal of either being an informational coach or being a transformational coach. An informational coach is somebody who shares information with people that are looking, to how to do things, right? How to invest in the stock market, or how to pick certain things, or how to build cabinets or whatever. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. It's just not transformation. Nobody has ever transformed their life with just information. So if you want to be a transformational coach, your certification cannot only be focused on informational delivery. It has to be focused on humans. Understanding what makes humans implement the information and what makes humans not implement the information. And the majority of humans don't implement the information that they know will help them in their life. Most people know how to lose weight. They know how to build a physique. They know how to set goals and achieve them, but they're not implementing what they know. So if you want to be a transformational coach, somebody who can really help other people shift their entire being on the planet and experience things they've never experienced before and heal traumas, your certification has to be focused on human behavior. Otherwise, you'll just get frustrated because you're telling people what to do and they're not doing it. And then the other thing that a good certification program will give you is a framework that's obviously aligned with the work that you want to do, so you'll know what to do when you get a client. Now, of course, I have my own certification programs. I'm a geek about this stuff. We have an online program. We have a live in-person program. If you want any information on that, go ahead and check out the link. So when you look into your certification, just make sure that it matches what your macro level clarity is and give yourself some slack. You might decide that you think you want to go in this route. You choose a certification program that gets you going in that direction. And 2 months later, 6 months later, 2 years later, you realize that's actually not the work that lights you up. So now you make a pivot and maybe you even go get another certification. That doesn't mean the first certification wasn't valuable. It doesn't mean you made the wrong choice. Your decision to pivot required the first certification in order for you to get to the point to recognize this doesn't light me up, or this isn't creating the success or the lifestyle that I want. So I need to go over there. If you give yourself that kind of grace and just take it easy on yourself and encourage yourself to keep going in motion, then even if you make several pivots along the way, you'll still end up further than just trying to get perfectly prepared and being able to predict the future and try to avoid all those pivots so that you know exactly where you're going to go. So this is a high-level conversation. Everything past this is dependent on these first three things. So I can't tell you the details of whether you should do social media ads or whether you should do live speaking events or what kind of programs you should create and how you should price them. There are a lot of considerations, but they're all dependent on these three foundational steps. If you want our support in helping you navigate these steps or helping you clarify whether it's your signature value or certification choices, is there something out there that's going to align with the thing that you want to do in the world and what have you, then click the link in the description below and you can jump on the phone with one of my coaches for a free consultation and strategy session. Just get on the phone and we'll support you however we can. Our main intention is not to sell you one of our programs. Our main intention is to help you make a decision that's going to be more aligned with whatever it is that you're going to do in this world. If you like this video, check out that video, which is a much deeper conversation into certification programs and how to choose the right one for you. There are 5 main criteria that you should look through. So the first thing to consider is really the most important one in my opinion, and it's not even about the program, it's about you. The question you've got to ask yourself is